Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis. And I want to introduce the team that God has provided us. Oh, God, he's still coming down. Okay. This is my partner in crime, the wise and powerful Oz, and he is we've been together basically since 1998, when he was taking all those classes with me and licensed as a practitioner after taking all of his classes with me, except for one. I think he took at Mile High, and then became our board president for many years, and then decided that he needed to move to Florida. And we we lost the ability to have him in the service. So he's in Wisconsin now because Florida is kind of crazy in the summer, and he's sitting in his car.
A 57 Chevy Bel Air is just backing into the garage right in front of me. It's very cool.
Oh wow!
Teal on the bottom and white on top, and it's impeccable. Pretty
That's
impressive.
cool. Really cool. So anyway, when we went live for the pandemic, I asked Oz if he'd be willing to be the practitioner of the day, and he said yes. And here we are 6 years later. He's still almost every weekend, although we may not have him next week because he's going to Spain. That sounds so fun. I can't wait to hear all the stories. Anyway, practitioner of the day does the invocation, the benediction, and they're available at the end for our 1 minute miracle. And I'll tell you more about that later. But I'm so glad to have Oz as my partner in crime here. Thank you so much for being here. All right. Now, I had issues this morning again, so I have no music. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to listen to me talk for a whole hour. I'm so sorry. But when we're doing the book, it's easier to do that. I would invite you to close your eyes, and if it was comfortable, and allow the service to uplift and inspire you, and then play the opening song, but I'm not going to get to do that. So let me bring Oz back on to at least pray us in. Let's get centered that way.
And I know one thing. I know that God is all there is, infinite, ever present, in all things, as all things, and therefore right here, right now, within me, within you, whenever and wherever you are. For God encompasses all of creation, moves it forward, brings it into an existence, maintains it, and changes things around when things need renewal. I know that God's presence is animating our service and that blessings unfold now and in the future. I know these things are good and very good, and I know them as I know anything. And as I know all things are one, I give thanks that it is so, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. Go finish your breakfast. All right. It's one of those mornings, just everything is so weird. Okay, so normally we would play Reverend Fairy Lane Silver's song, We Are All One, but obviously that's not working this morning. So instead, I'm going to introduce the adjunct music team. We have Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver, who was the first to ask us to do her music in the service. And then we have Karen Drucker, who gifted us with her entire collection of CDs. We got karaoke files and songbooks, so we would have the lyrics, so we'd be able to perform it. And that was when we had a soloist. At the beginning, it was Albertina Giuffre, better known as Tina, and she still comes, like she calls it the crying season, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Memorial Day, that kind of stuff. And then she's always here for 2 weeks in our Christmas series, the Advent series that we do. So that's our music team. That's our adjunct music team. Karen and Elaine do not show up on camera. They've authorized me to play their videos, but this software keeps changing, and every time they change it, I lose something. Like the first thing I lost was the ability to play videos outside of the program. And so now I can't do their videos. And now apparently I've lost all the music that we've put inside the program. So here we are winging it. We are doing a series based on my book, 10 Weeks on the Road to Prosperity. And it's the idea that prosperity is a journey. And on this journey, we have stops, like you would, when you're sightseeing, you would stop. And each stop is a spiritual principle. And each week we are using spiritual tools. I'm introducing spiritual tools each week. So let me start out by saying that we have been using the spiritual bank account. Hopefully you've been using it. Week 1, we talked about, we did a side-by-side picture of where we are today, right? Your income on one side, your expenses on the other side. We had you do 10% for yourself, 10% for God, and 10% for either paying off bills or your investments, utilizing 70% to pay off your bills. Now, I know there's a discrepancy between those two, and that's fine. We're not doing 10%, physically doing 10% right away. We're stepping up to tithing so you can get comfortable. Now, tithing is the idea that you're giving back to your source. Your job is not your source. Your trust fund is not your source. The lottery is not your source. Those are all avenues through which the source provides. Now, my word for the source is God. Some people want to call it intelligence or spirit or great spirit. Allah, whatever your word is fine with me. Just turn it around in your head, because I'm going to use the word God. But God is my source. And one of my all-time favorite affirmations is, God is my source and supply, and I am supplied abundantly. And like I said, there's many avenues through which God can deliver that to me. And so it works along with the law of circulation, where we did this exercise the first week, and I'll do it with you really quick again, since we have time. I want you to take in a nice deep breath. Hold it. Take in another nice deep breath. Hold it. Take in another nice deep breath. Hold it. Okay, let go. There's no way you can take in infinite breaths without releasing some of it. That is the law of circulation in effect. And so when you're tithing, what you're doing is you are implementing that law of circulation through your life. And so just as you can't take more breath in, you can't take money in and not release some of it. So the act of tithing is about giving back to your source and activating the law of circulation. So we're going to start that as a spiritual practice. Well, we started it 4 weeks ago. This is week 4. And we started out by tithing 1% the first week, 2% the second week, 3% the third week. And this week, we're going to do 4% of your income. It's an easy way to get started tithing because you don't miss that money. If you're making $2,000 a month, you're going to give us $20. That's not. And by the way, if you have a different place that you would like to give back to your source, I understand. I certainly hope that I inspire you to give back to your source with us. But if you have a different spiritual organization, or you have a different guru, or you have a different somebody who inspires and uplifts you with what they teach, by all means, just start tithing. I don't care if it's with them. I mean, I do care. obviously. But, I want to tell you that it's just about you getting that spiritual practice going and activating the law of circulation in your life so it returns back to you, you see. So, that being said, that is what we do. At the end, I ask you to contribute now. And in that contribute now is when you're going to give your partial tithe. Okay. And the first week we talked about gratitude, about how being in gratitude is a magnetic force that draws your good to you. So when we're working on prosperity, we want to, of course, make sure that we are using that magnetic force of gratitude to bring prosperity to us. And I'm not going to go into the whole sermon, so please go back to YouTube. Actually, on our website, it says see sermons or something like that. Watch sermons, I think it is. And it will take you to the page on YouTube that you need to be on. But go back and watch weeks 1, 2, and 3, because there's a lot of information that I'm just skimming over today. All right. And then, so we did a practice of gratitude whereby we started our day with however you want to express gratitude. My mentor minister, Dr. Marjorie Stahl, when I roomed with her in Puerto Vallarta, said she would get up in the morning. I'd have the covers over my head, because I wasn't a morning girl then, and the sun kept shining into the room, so I always had the covers over my head. And she would swing her legs over the side of the bed and say, "Praise God, this is the day that God has made." And I'd pull the covers down and I'd go, "Hola, Marjorie." And she'd say, "Hola, Tucker." And I'd put the covers back up. But she would walk around the room praising God. And you don't have to do that. You can if you want. That's not my way of doing it. My way of doing it is I have this song by Karen Drucker that is, "Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day." However you want to express that gratitude. And then we're taking gratitude breaks during the day, just like people take smoke breaks. We're going to take gratitude breaks where we feel gratitude for something. And then at lunchtime, we suggest that you do 5 times a day gratitude breaks. And then at lunchtime, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And then at night, you are going to write down 10 things. Write the last thing before you close your eyes. You're going to write down 10 things that you're grateful for. Now, the second week, I introduced the mental bank account, or the spiritual bank account. And it was based on a long time ago, 30 years ago, probably. Reverend Lynn and I got this mental bank account program off TV, the commercials on TV, and infomercials, that's what they call them. And so, pardon me, my brain is kind of, because I've tried 3 different times to log in to get the information, and none of it was there in any of the logins. So I'm a little rattled here. I'm going to do this better. Anyway, so we get this mental bank account, and it was based off the idea that you could use your imagination to grow a fortune. And how you did that was by taking menial jobs that you don't like doing and giving yourself money in this mental bank account for it. So we picked, we had 2 big Malamutes at the time and another dog. And so we picked picking up poop. So we would give ourselves $100 for each log that we picked up. And so we had a lot of fun doing it. It was like a big game. And it did help our prosperity. I will say that. So I've adapted it. Instead of it being a mental bank account, it's a spiritual bank account. And what you're going to be giving yourself money for is your spiritual practice. Now, catch this. If you have been doing your gratitude practice the way I just outlined it all this time, you would have $39,900 in your spiritual bank account. What you're going to do is take like a regular check register kind of thing, and just start with a beginning balance and give yourself $100 for each time you did every piece of gratitude you did. So if you got up in the morning, you were going to give yourself $100. If you and did gratitude work, I mean, and if you took 5 gratitude breaks that day, you would have $500 added to the spiritual bank account. If you did listed 3 things that you were grateful for at lunchtime, you gave yourself another $300. If you did the 10 things that you were grateful for at night, that's $1,000. So times 7 times 3 weeks. Okay. That's where you get the $39,900. Okay. And then the second week was about visualization. Now, many people have successful business people and athletes have done this practice for years, where they visualize the end result that they want, and they do it every day. And they claim that that is what made them successful. So I adapted that too. I said, okay, let's visualize what prosperity is in our life. Now, everybody's going to have a different version of prosperity. Unfortunately, we don't all have the exact same values. Let's just put it that way, or the definition of those values. We may have the same values, but not the same definition. We're going to talk about values next week, by the way. If you would like the values worksheet that we did, DM me and I will send it off to you. What happened with that, just so you're clear, is we had a consulting firm, Centers for Spiritual Living, hired this consulting firm, and they sent out this questionnaire to staff, board members, practitioners, and ministers in churches, and also home office staff and the board for the organization and all of that. And the consultants were kind of laughing when they said, no wonder you guys haven't been able to do a lot, because you had no vehicle, you had no driver, you had no fuel, because nobody could agree what our 10 core concepts were, or our 10 core values were. So if you would like it, I will send it out. We're going to be talking about it next week. And it's really handy for you to have if you are participating in this program. All right. So when you do your visualizations, you get to give yourself $1,000. So, and it's an active practice. It's not like visioning that we do that isn't, receptive. Visualization is you have a goal, you decide what you want to picture your life. If you are visual, how does your life look, sound, feel, that kind of thing. Because we talked about gift order, and how you receive information is how you're going to receive this information as well. And it's how you're going to practice it. So if you are a visual person, you're going to visualize a picture. If you are an audience person, you're going to hear what it sounds like to be prosperous. If you are a feeler like I am, a kinesthetic, you're going to feel what it feels like to be prosperous, okay? In the meantime, you should have been giving yourself $1,000 a day for that. So times 7 times 2 weeks would be 14,000, right? No, 100. Wait, let's see. 7,000 times 2, yeah, 14,000. Okay, and so you add that to the 39,000 you were already getting for the gratitude. Then last week we talked about imagination, because that's really, or maybe it was vice versa. Anyway, imagination is a large part of what we have done up to now. Anyway, as I spoke about it, I was telling you, when you go to the movies and you're sitting there watching this movie, and maybe it's a love story, you start to cry, or maybe it's an action movie, and the adrenaline starts to pump up in your body. And that is because your mind does not know the difference between fact and fiction. It's based on imagination. And we're utilizing our imagination in that way to become involved in the movie, right? So what I say is, if that's the case, then we should be able to use our imagination to create a future reality, right? The big R reality that we want to see. So we're going to be using that for prosperity. And so that's all part of this spiritual bank account, right? Is the imagination. When we see these amounts all the time counting up, your subjective mind doesn't know the difference between fact and fiction. So this fiction becomes fact in the mind of, in our subjective mind. Okay. Before I go on, I'm going to, oh gosh, I don't even have that. I can still share my screen and pull it up, I think. Let me see here. Oh, this just blows. Okay. Let me try opening a file up that has I believe I would have. Oh, where do I have that? That's just crazy. I know I have it. While I'm looking for it, let me talk so that it doesn't eat up time. That's just quiet. Is it in slides? Maybe, baby. No. So we have this unbroken circle of unity. Well, without illustrating it, it's kind of crazy. Let me see if I can get it online somewhere. I'm sure I can. Religious science teaching symbol. It probably won't be as pretty as mine. But, there it is. Okay. Yes, I can get it up. Okay. That's all I wanted to see. All right. So now I'm going to share my screen, maybe. This is just crazy that I can't get to anything. It's just odd. Share screen. Okay. Pull this up here. There we go. Okay. As you can see, oh, okay. Well, that works too. Let's pull that up. As you can see, it's the unbroken unity of all life is symbolized by this round circle, okay? And though we're unable to part God out, for illustrative purposes, we have created 3 parts to God. And the top is conscious mind, which is God thinking something into being. You know, we say we have a divine intelligence. The divine intelligence thinks something into being. It has an idea of what it wants to create. And then the middle portion is like Play-Doh, for example, because that is the stuff that God makes things out of, right? It's God's Play-Doh. And we are made, you know, God has made us through of itself, right? Basically. And so in the bottom is where our body is, or anything that's created, whether it's this desk or me or animals or air, water, anything is created out of the same stuff. And so that's what's in the form part. And you'll notice there's a V that goes from the conscious mind down into form and then returns back to the nothingness from which it came. Now, this is important because I use the analogy of planting a garden, right? You have the seed that's up there in the top. You have the soil that's in the middle, and then you have the flower itself on the bottom there. And then it goes back into the nothingness from which it came when the season is over. Okay. And so that is how life works. The creative process works. And the illustration I've given you up to this point is God using this creative process. But we co-create with God. So what's important is to know that our process is the same process as God. The top portion is our idea, or in this case, our idea of prosperity. Let's put it that way. We want to create prosperity. And so in the middle is, I like to think of it as a computer hard drive, where everything that you've ever experienced and all your reactions to those experiences is saved. So that's where your limiting beliefs are. That's where all the stuff that you've decided about life is stored right there. And then if all goes well, our idea of prosperity, we do our affirmations, we do our treatments, we do all of that, goes through that subjective mind, blossoms into prosperity for us. And then at the end of when we pass, all of that passes away, right? That's kind of the way this is geared. So let me just say quickly that if there's something in the subjective mind, such as I don't deserve it, or I can't get that, or the how lives in there, the wanting to know how lives in there. And, so we can't fathom how it gets there. When that's the case, then the prosperity doesn't get created at all. So the V stops right in the middle section and goes back up into the nothingness from which it came. Also, we do create unconsciously, where we don't even have a conscious thought about it. And that's where a lot of the poverty stuff happens, because the subjective mind is controlling all of that. So it's like on autopilot. It just creates, and it creates these situations we don't like. So it's important to remember that we need to work on our limiting beliefs. We need to work on that area in the subjective mind that keeps us from our good. As we work through this program, we're going to talk more about that. But that is the creative process, and that's what's important for us to know when using our imagination, okay? Well, it's important for us to know anyway. And like I said, we already use this. It's not like Dr. Ernest, our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, used to say, there's a power for good in the universe and we can use it. Yeah, we can. We do use it. That's not the question. The question is, do we use it consciously? So I like to say there's a power for good in the universe and we can use it consciously. Because obviously, a lot of the time we're using it unconsciously. It's not that we can use it, we do use it. All right, so let me get my notes back up here so I know where I'm going now. And so noting this creative process, what we're doing is we are training the subjective mind to see this bank account and register it as fact, so that we can begin to, I talked about affirmations last week, I think it was. And with affirmations, my brother had a pretty massive stroke, like 25 years ago, something like that. And he was on the floor for like 22 hours. We only knew this because he was typing something and it started to erode at a certain time and the computer kept saving it. But the stroke started in his left brain, crossed over midbrain and into his right brain. And that is the communication center, by the way, the left brain. So we had a friend, Dr. Margaret Stannard, who was one of a handful of people across the world who had the training that she had. She was one class shy of getting her medical license, her doctorate. And she decided she didn't want to be a medical doctor after all. So she went to school for pathology. And not pathology. She wanted to be a speech pathologist. I think that's how. Yeah. And so she was flown all over the world for her consulting. And like I said, there's only a handful of people that have that. And luckily, she was a friend of ours. So we call her in. She starts working with his MRI, and she starts telling us about it. And about halfway through her explanation about what happened and how you can train the right brain to take over the neural pathways, or create neural pathways in the right brain to take over the function of the left brain, I had a big aha. I'm like, that's how affirmations work, right? And she said, yes, that's exactly right. When we're born, our brain is rather smooth. And over the course of time, as we do repetitive things, our brains create deeper and more accessible pathways. And so when we do affirmations, what we're doing is we're doing repetition. So the first couple of times we do the affirmations, it's creating the groove, and then it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. It gives us ready access to the neural pathways, ready access to the synapses that are firing, which means that our brain begins to believe this is our reality, right? I think you need all of the spiritual practices. I don't think just affirmations is powerful enough to recreate your entire life. But it's one of the tools that we use. And so we say do 100 affirmations a day. Well, when you do 100 affirmations a day, what you're doing is you're deepening those neural pathways, and you're retraining your subjective mind to believe that. Same thing with the spiritual bank account. You're doing the same exact thing. All right, so fast forward to today. We're going to talk about intention, because intention is really important to the process. We have to, number one, define our prosperity. I think I know I shared it. When I was originally sharing my version of prosperity, I was talking about, I used to have a friend whose family was very prominent in Colorado. And we went to lunch one day, and her family had lost everything. And she was whining because she only had $300,000 in her bank account. And I'm like, I can't remember if it was like 10 in the negative or 10 in the positive in my account, $10, right? And at first I was like offended, like, what? If I had $300,000, I'd be whoop-de-doing it and celebrating, And then I started thinking about it. It doesn't really matter the number. It doesn't really matter how many zeros are there. What matters is what your definition of poverty is, which in turn says it doesn't really matter if you know what, the definition of your prosperity is. So in her mind, $300,000 was poverty. In my mind, it was prosperity, right? So it's really important that we locate our definition of prosperity. Now, for the use of the program, I have defined it as thriving instead of just surviving, right? If we're thriving, it doesn't really matter what the number is. What matters is that you are able to do things that you never thought you could do, right? Okay. So now that we've got that down, we're going to use our imagination this week to spend some of that money. I have $136,000 in my spiritual bank account right now because I've been doing all of those practices every day for the last 4 weeks. We are now in week 5. We're in week 4. I'm sorry. We're now in week 4. So for the last 3 weeks, I've been doing all of the spiritual practices, and I have amassed $136,000 in there. So now we're going to spend that money. Okay. What I do is I take a check of mine, and I white out my name and all that information, and I put Bank of the Universe on it. And then I make 1 billion copies. And so here's what we're going to do. You are going to say you want to pay off bills. Let's put it that way. Say you want to pay off 4 or 5 different bills. You're going to take the statement of that bill and a check that you have written for the full amount, and you're going to post it on your refrigerator. You're going to put copies of it everywhere, just everywhere. I like to put them in my bedroom, so I look at those. I do my gratitude journal. I look at those. I go to bed. Because your subjective mind begins working on stuff when you sleep. So if the last thought I have is that I've paid off this bill, then I'm going to be able to sleep well, and my subjective mind is going to start working on that to accomplish it. And then I have them on the coffee table because that's where I eat. I have them there so that I can, and I've already done this process. I don't really have any bills right now. But when we were in debt, that's what I did. And so I would put them on the coffee table so that every time I ate, I would look at them. And I had them in my car. I would get in my car. I would look at them. I'd drive to wherever I'm going. Please don't look at them while you're driving. And whenever I got to where I was going, I would look at them again. It just keep, working with your subjective mind to see, that fiction becomes fact, right? So that you're creating a big R reality instead of the little r reality that you've been living. All right, so that's if you want to pay off bills. And again, you can pay off 4 or 5 of them. It doesn't really matter. You can just post them. But you want to write the check for the full amount so that they become paid off. I think when I did the mental bank account, what I did was I took statements from whoever I owed, and I whited out the balance, and I put the balance that I wanted to see, which was 0. So I had the before statement, the check, and the after balance. Feel free to do it however you want to do it. Just do it. Because as you spend this money, you're training your subjective mind to believe that you've paid off this debt. The other thing that you can do is there's perhaps an object that you want that you've never up to this day felt like you could afford. I had a lady in my congregation that utilized this the first year that I presented this, when I first published my book. And she wanted a Mini Cooper so bad. And so she put a Mini Cooper, she put the exact model, the exact color, the exact everything up on the refrigerator, and it had the amount of the sale price on it. And she wrote a check and she put it underneath there. And she did all of the spiritual practices, the gratitude, the affirmations, the visualization. She did all of that, the spiritual mind treatment, on and on. Within 1 month, she manifested that Mini Cooper, that exact Mini Cooper. So I knew it was possible before that, but that's my proof that it works. Because this stuff really, really works. Maybe it's a vacation in Tahiti. You would take and go and find the perfect resort in Tahiti that you want to go to, where it lists the price. And you want to make sure you include airfare, renting a car if you want to do that, the resort fees, all of it, food, everything. And you write a check for it. And you post that. And then begin enjoying your vacation in Tahiti as you visualize, right? So this is all geared towards, all these spiritual practices are geared towards you experiencing prosperity the way you need to experience it. Okay? So the other part of all of this is, when you were tithing 1% the first week, you gave yourself $100. When you were tithing 2% the second week, you gave yourself $200. When you were tithing 3% last week, you gave yourself $300. Now today, if you tithe 4%, you give yourself $400 in your spiritual bank account. Plus you get $100 for attending church each week. So you would have $400 in there as of today for that. All right. So this week, I want you to continue doing your gratitude, doing your affirmations, doing your visualization. And now you're going to set an intention, and you're going to, every time you see these checks on the refrigerator or wherever, you're going to give yourself $100, right? So things are starting to add up to a lot of money. And now we're spending that money so that we're training the subjective mind to accept that this is now the reality. Okay. So if you're with me in all that, let's have a prayer. Oh, and I have no music, so that's fine. Okay. I now turn my awareness to the infinite power, the infinite presence, the infinite life of God, where I know without a shadow of doubt that God is simply all there is, all there ever has been, all there ever will be, only God. And so that is where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very life, my very being. It is who and what I am. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by the ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through all. I know the same truth to be so for the team that God has provided. For Elaine, for Karen, for Oz. I know, for Tina, I know that that same wisdom of the ages flows through them equally. And it guides and leads them to that which ought to be done by them. I know the same truth to be so for anyone who's listening here today. For we are definitely guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through everyone, everything. Mitakuye and all my brethren, we are related. So I bless this coming week with an awareness of, number one, what does prosperity look like, feel like, sound like to us? Number two, what is our intention to create that prosperity? And number three, the experiences we are receiving doing these spiritual practices is beginning to show in physical reality. Little miracles are popping up everywhere we are. So I bless us with that experience this week. I know that all of it is so good, as I know that for every name that is in the ministry of prayer today, because I do know that whatever challenge they are experiencing, God is the answer. So I pull back that veil here and now, and I call it forth as good and very good in their name. And for this, I am very grateful that it is so, to be of service in this way. And so I just let it be. And so it is. Amen. All right. Let's see. I don't know how to do the announcements very well without all this stuff. That's just crazy. First, let's right now is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to share with gratitude that which you have already received in the physical reality, or perhaps what you've created in the mind of God and have not yet quite experienced it in the physical realm. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to go with me to www.oasiscsl.org. And yes, it's back up and running. I spent 10 hours on it. But anyway, I'm going to ask you to go there and say the offering affirmation with me. And then underneath is a Contribute Now button. And so let me talk a little bit about contribution. Because when we're in a facility, there's rent and utilities and, my salary and all these things that are lumped in there. Right now, what we have is marketing. That's the only expense we have, because we have a vision of a healed world, and that's global. And our mission to get there is by healing the world one person at a time. In order to do that, unfortunately, it takes money to market. And so we already have people from the US, India, Bangladesh, the Philippines. I know I'm forgetting somebody. Germany, the Netherlands, which is Holland, and the UK, which is either Great Britain or England, whichever way you want to look at it. We have people all around the globe already who are tuning into our service. And so that's why I always say, whether you're watching now or later, it applies to you, because we have people who are in Europe, for example, who are 8 hours later that are watching. So, excuse me. So our mission is to increase the population and increase the number of countries so that we heal one person at a time. And in order to do that, it takes money, right? Can't develop a new country, can't develop more of the same people or more of the people in the same country that we already have without marketing to them. And marketing takes money. So that's what you're contributing to. If you believe in what the work that we're doing and the vision of a healed world, by all means, please contribute for that. All right. And so right now, whether that's in real time or later on, please go with me now to www.oasiscsl.org and say this offering affirmation with me. This perfect gift is spirit in form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give, and joyously I receive. And so it is. Hit that Contribute Now button, and if you're working the program, it'll be 4% of your income today. Please know that your gift is going to get us closer to that vision of a healed world. All right. We have this wonderful team of licensed practitioners from coast to coast that will that serve our church in many ways. The first way that they serve is by doing prayer for any prayer requests every day for a week. So if you would like prayer for something, put it in the comments section. If you don't want it to be public, you can DM me, and I will make sure that the God Squad gets it. I had this vision of practitioners marching in and taking charge. That's where the God Squad comes from. That was back in 1998, and I've been calling them that ever since. But anyway, I will make sure the God Squad gets your prayer requests. If you put it in the comments section, they will see it. If you don't want it to be public, you can DM me. The other way that our licensed practitioners serve our church is by providing spiritual guidance by appointment for a fee. And so in this case, it is only Oz who is providing this service right now. So you would contact him by messenger and let him know that you would like a session for spiritual guidance, and he'll tell you how to pay for it. I don't get involved in that. All practitioners have their own business, so they determine what payment method they're going to use, whether that's PayPal or Cash App or Venmo or Zelle, Wise. For those that are out of the country, they probably are going to use Wise. Anyway, they'll let you know how to pay for it. And as soon as you pay for it, they will video chat you at the appointed time for your spiritual guidance. And then the final thing is the practitioner of the day, which is Oz. And he does the invocation, the benediction, and at the very end, he does our 1 minute miracle. In other words, after the service is over. And that is not a time for spiritual counseling. That is not our spiritual guidance. That is not a time for anything but prayer. And so you reach out to him, and he will let him know what issue you're experiencing, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then and there. So that's our 1 minute miracle. All right. I'm going to attempt to do the rest of these announcements without all my stuff. I want to point you to, gosh, what is her website? It's been a long time since I've had to do this. Okay, it's too small. All right, it's elainesilver.com. So you would go to www.elainesilver.com. Now, for some reason, she isn't able to update her website for a form of payment. So you'll have to reach out to her by email and find out how to pay for it. She goes around the country singing and playing guitar, but she carries the CDs with her. So she's really good about, once it's paid for, sending those out to you. So there's no delay or anything. So definitely check it out. I love a lot of her music. She has some really wonderful stuff. And then there's Karen Drucker, and hers is karendrucker.com. So it's www.karendrucker.com. And her website, you can go ahead and pay for it right then and there. You can buy it by the CD, by the song, by the karaoke file, by the songbook. All of those options are available to you. And like I said, her payment portal does work. So you can buy it right then and there. And by the way, some of her songbooks actually have American Sign Language. If you always wanted to learn how to sign a song, this is the one. Okay, let's talk about Brooks and Bailey for a moment. Brooks and Bailey is these fabulous couple of women who make jewelry. And one of the bracelets that I got from them like 6 years ago has a circle and a bar through it so that it doesn't slip off my wrist. For those of you who know me well enough, you know everything slips off my wrist. Even this watch, this is called a wave watch. It has frequencies built into it. There's no time on it. But I've even had this slip off somehow. And their bracelets only slipped off my arm twice in 6 years, so that's like a record. But I also love that they have mala beads, because with your affirmations, mala beads are important. The Hindus and Buddhists use them by moving one bead at a time to do their chants. So I say there's 108 beads on a necklace. So it's a great way to get in your 100 affirmations a day. The bracelets have 54, so we'd use those twice. It's just a tool to help you get through your affirmations. That one's amethyst, which was $60 at the time. And she had all kinds of other, or they had all kinds of other gemstones that were $35 and up. So check out them at, you can email them at brooksandbailey0307@gmail, or you can look them up on Facebook. They do have a Facebook page. Whenever they have an event, a booth at an event, I try to repost that so you can go and meet them in person and see what they have. So I got through all of these without any prompts. Isn't that great? I'm so proud of myself. All right. I'm going to turn this over to Oz now to pray us out.
And I know that the presence of God is always wherever we are, whenever we are. For God is infinite, ever-present, all-powerful, creating each moment anew. And knowing that this is so, I give great thanks for the blessings that are inevitable. And so it is.
And so it is. Join us every week. Well, specifically next week when we do stop number 5, which I believe is choice. And again, if you want the values worksheet so that you can determine your 10 core values, because we're going to talk about that next week, just DM me and I will make sure and send it to you so that you have that. What it is, It's 100 values. This is the first time I coughed. I'm doing much better. It's 100 values. And you're going to circle the 10 that are most important to you and then put them in numerical order. So you're going to put like a 1 next to, I hope you're going to use prosperity. It doesn't mean that those are your 10 core values for the rest of your life. You can rearrange them, but make sure prosperity is in there somewhere. Because if you really want to create prosperity, you need to have it as value. So anyway, if you want that, DM me. I will send it off to you so you can set up your 10 values for next week. All right. And so join us every week at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time, USA time. Until then, stay safe. We love you. We're leaving a little bit early today, but I think it's okay. Bye.